and welcome guests. I see we have Jody Ellison joining us. Hi, Jody, again. And why don't we go through our roll call. We'll both say where we are as we say that we're here as well. We'll start with Peter.
Peter Provenzano, calling from Auburn Hills, Michigan.
Shar.
Carolyn Douglas, Royal Oak.
And Tom McGannon calling from Southfield. And we'll soon see Alex, I'm sure. We'll move on to public comment. I see we have public with us, Jody Ellison. Jody, did you have anything that you would like to say to the group?
No, I'm good. I can wait until, what am I, item 10.
Okay, great.
So I can wait until then. Thank you.
Sounds good. All right, we'll next move into, oh, I'm sorry. And Julie, did you have anyone else that had expressed an interest in public comment at all in advance of the meeting?
Not in advance of the meeting, but let me just make sure that we don't have anybody in the parking lot here. You know, I'm not able to check for some reason. Yeah, I don't have the tools at the bottom of my screen anymore. I'm not sure. Carol, are you still with us? Oh, you know what? I know why. Sorry, I have to stop sharing. Pardon me. No, we do not have anyone in the waiting room for public comment.
Okay, great.
Okay.
And we're also glad to welcome Alex Fike. Hi, Alex. Any minute he'll be coming on the screen. Maybe we'll see some of his fun babies in the background. And once Alex clicks in, we will confirm him with our roll call. So we'll keep moving forward.
Okay. Then I'll go ahead and share the agenda again.
Great. And then I'm going to ask everyone for their review of our minutes from our April 14 meeting and our special meeting on April 27th as well. Are there any additions, updates, edits, etc., to the minutes as presented? If not, I'll ask for a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Are we doing both of these at the same time?
Why don't we do them individually? Why don't we approve first the meeting minutes from the 14th, and then we'll do a separate one for the special meeting of April 27th.
All right, I'll second that motion for the 14th.
All righty. All in favor of those being approved for April 14th, say aye by roll call. Shar?
Aye.
Pete?
Aye.
Alex?
Aye, present from Royal Oak.
Great, thank you. We'll add that to the minutes as well. And I'm an aye as well. All right, and then I will ask for a second motion to approve the minutes of our special meeting of April 27 as well, if there are not any additions or corrections.
I can make a motion to approve those as well.
Great, is there a second?
Second.
All right, those in favor say aye by roll call. Start with Alex.
Yes. Aye.
Shar. And then next to Shar.
Oh, aye.
And then to Pete.
Aye.
And then I'm an aye as well. All right, our minutes have been approved as presented. Next up, we'll ask Julie to share our most recent financials that we will file following their viewing.
Okay, has the screen changed for you all?
Yes.
Okay. Great. So as we usually view our minute or our financials, we have our 295 account where no business really happens at this point. But I do want to bring your attention to this miscellaneous expenditure line item. I noticed that in this latest iteration of our financials that there was a debit and a credit, and it turns out what that is a movement of that $815 from 295. In the beginning, it was an expense to 295 back in November. But it turns out that the finance department is ready to adjust our 295 and turn it into a 701 account. And so they made the expense in the 701 account and just credited back the 815 into the 295 account. I hope that makes sense. We can have questions afterward, but I'll show you where that is. And the reason that that was done is because Riemann and Kitch have recommended to us that we run as a 701. In this current fiscal year, the finance department would like to have no activity in this 295 because they want to just turn the full amount over to us in the 701. Okay, so when we move to the 701 account, you can see that right here, they made a journal entry for the $815 expense to the 701. So I know it sounds a little bit convoluted, and I want to just make sure, Pete, especially for you, do you understand?
Yep, I do. My one question, if you go back to the previous page,
Okay.
So that makes sense to me. My only question is, when you look at the rest of the activity, like the transfer to the animal shelter fund and some of these other entries, are they going to reverse those out as well?
They are not. And that's a great question. So if you look up here, these are transactions from August of 2018. I had to run the reports like that so I could get a full total. Otherwise, this report only would show what we were experiencing within a particular time frame. So if perhaps this was July 1 of 2020, we wouldn't see any of this.
I gotcha.
Including that 1,073. That was an old T-shirt fundraiser they had, I think, back in 2019. I think it was before COVID. So that is an old expense. So 815 is the only one within this particular fiscal year that occurred in 295 and thereby was adjusted to be in the 701.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay. And then just again, this total $14,763.62, plus perhaps another 1 or 2 months of interest that just hasn't been added here, will be put into our 701 as of today, the end of today or the end of tomorrow, except it will be backdated to April 30th to keep the interest income settled within this fiscal year so that it doesn't run into July of next year. So and the bottom line is they don't want to see any activity in this 295. They just want to close it out as of June 30th. Okay. So then the other thing I wanted to show you is we have a lot of line items as of April because the PayPal Giving Fund came in, and for some reason the income was entered twice. And so there are 2 entries of income and then 1 to reverse. And that's what all of that business is about.
So was that just a system entry error?
I think it was. I think perhaps 2 people entered it not knowing that the other person was entering it.
I understand. Okay.
Okay. And then I guess that's it. We've had a couple checks come in, and let's see, I think 2 of those, the 150 right here is one of the payables that you will see on this month's agenda. So I wonder if you have any questions?
If there are no questions, we will let these financials stand as presented and filed. All right. Next, we'll go into adopting today's agenda. Julie, if you could share your agenda screen for us again, please.
Sure.
Are there any changes or additions to this agenda since we created it at the end of our last meeting? The only suggestion that I have is adding to item 12, and this was at Pete's suggestion at our last meeting, that we call this a goals document. So just to make sure that our nomenclature matches, if we could call this the first 5 years goal timeline.
Okay. Noted. Thank you.
Great. Any other changes or additions to today's agenda?
I have one question, please. From last month's notes, there was a cryptic note, and it was about this catalog current fundraising happening for Royal Oak, and it said remove. And I wanted to just, before I removed it from the parking lot and not put it anywhere else, I wanted to be sure that indeed we are done with that one. Does anybody remember?
I don't recall exactly. I thought our plan was to meet with each of the legacy Royal Oak organizations to find out what they were doing and also tell them about what our plans were to see if there were any joining opportunities. And we thought we would catalog them during those meetings, but that's the only recollection I have of that discussion.
Okay.
My
Yeah, and
recollection, yeah,
I'm
my
sorry,
recollection
Alex?
was that we're doing that within the item 12. I don't know if that meets with everyone else's recollection, but the idea that we are going through kind of the current fundraising happening in Royal Oak as part of our the meetings that you mentioned, Tom, and then also the first 5 years is goals.
That sounds familiar too.
Okay.
So why
All
don't
right.
you go ahead, why don't we remove it from the parking lot at this point?
Okay, sounds great. Thank you for that clarification.
All right, any other questions or clarifications? If not, I'll ask for a motion to approve today's agenda.
I can make a motion to approve today's agenda.
Is there a second?
I can second.
All in favor, say aye by roll call. Start with Shar.
Aye. Aye.
And Pete.
Aye.
And Alex.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. All right, then next up, Julie, if you would talk through our payables.
Okay. So we received a check for $150, and I mentioned this one at our special meeting because it came through and was marked as an unrestricted check, but it turns out that that was incorrect, that the donors intended it to be a public library donation. So I went ahead and made that change with the treasurer's office, and then it's reflected here also. So the payable request is that you give approval to pass through $150 from the Van Beek Family Giving Fund to the Royal Oak Public Library. And then secondly, another individual donation check came through for $50 from Edward and Sharon Patini to the Royal Oak Animal Shelter. And so we ask for an approval to pass that through.
Okay. Entertain a motion to approve these pass-throughs to these different organizations inside the city.
Also move.
Is there a second?
I second.
Alrighty. Any discussion on the matter at all? If not, we will call the question. And by roll call, your approval of today's motion. Start again with Shar.
Yes.
Pete?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
I'm an aye as well. All right.
Okay, great, thank you. And Shar, may I ask that in the minutes it reflects the dollar amount also? Because I send the minutes to the finance department so that they have backup documentation.
Yep, got it.
And
Okay.
Julie,
Thank
do you need us to sign off on those payables as well? Or
No, not just for, yeah, not for the transfers, just for check writing.
Okay, I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
And when, just in the future, and I know you've got so much that you do, if you're able to do the first time you did that, it was in a PDF document. So it was really easy just to kind of go in and we were able to, like, I was able to just kind of sign it and then email it back to you and not print it and all that. So oftentimes I don't have access to a printer. I can get it back to you faster. Not critical, but just, you know, if it's easy, it's helpful. If not, no worries.
Okay. All right. I'll keep that in mind.
All right, we'll continue on today's agenda then, moving to Julie's director's report.
Okay. All right, let me switch the screen here. Okay, so let's see. Most of the work this past month was closing out the fundraiser. We have all of the checks now approved and in the docket for mailing to the 3 charities. So we will be formally closed out in the next few days. I'm not sure if you saw that we got a really great front page media hit.
Great picture, great story.
Yeah, thanks. And huge thank you to Shar for writing that press release, and a huge thank you to Judy Davids for getting the releases sent out. And my son actually took these pictures of us at the hot house, so he's kind of proud that his photography skills are, you know, highlighted on the front page of the Royal Oak Tribune.
That's excellent.
Yeah. So, okay, and then, you know, standard stuff like requesting checks from finance to take care of the approved payables from last month, and then transfers. Finally, the treasurer was able to get GoFundMe to give the money to PayPal Giving Fund, which, by the way, is different than PayPal. And that's how, you know, we were able to call that special meeting and get the money to our charities faster than we thought that we would be. So that was a great thing to have done. It also turns out that the same technique she used to get the PayPal Giving Fund set up, she used with Amazon Smile. So we are now formally an Amazon Smile charity, and we didn't have to open our own bank account, which is great. So then I worked with Alex a little bit about getting the trusted candidate information and interviews set up, and we'll probably have a little bit more to talk about when we get to that on the agenda. And then moving forward on one of our tasks from last month is inviting the different organizations that used to participate as roots organizations to come and talk with us. And so, of course, Jody is here from the Royal Oak Animal Shelter. And then we have now the Google Doc set up for the 5 years goal timeline. And if it's not named properly in Google, I will fix that also. And then just administrative stuff as usual for the month. So that's what happened in the last 30-ish days.
Great work.
I'm happy to take questions if there are any.
Great work. Thanks, Julie.
And
Yes,
Julie,
thank you.
for clarity, you are providing about half of your time for Royal Oak Civic Foundation duties. And I just want to make sure I've got the percentage. We're not overburdening you is my ultimate question. So.
Yeah, no, it's not half-time because I work as the grants coordinator and the energy and sustainability manager and the executive director for this foundation. So it's probably like 25 to 33%, depending on which month it is and what else I have for those other positions.
Sure. And I want to keep that top of mind. So I'm regularly checking in that we are either sharing responsibilities or not overburdening you, knowing that you have two distinct other tasks for the city too.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, great. Julie, as always, thanks for your efforts in supporting us as we get started up here too.
Mm-hmm. Yes, my pleasure.
Any questions for Julie about her report? If not, we will move forward in our next agenda item to the city attorney's report. And Mark reporting back on anything that's new and interesting.
Know about anything
not interesting, it doesn't matter.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I can take care of agenda item number 9 and number 11 in the same instance. I did speak last week with interim city attorney Ann McClory McLaughlin on the Riemann Robson legal opinion that they're still waiting for final word. Ms. McClory is reviewing it. We did discuss issues dealing with the ramifications of the city carrying expenses and services in staff compensation for the Royal Oak Civic Foundation, but we have not come to a conclusion. And I have a tentative meeting next week with the interim city attorney to try to seek a conclusion of this issue. That's pretty much all I have. There's nothing else new to report right now.
Okay. Any questions for Mark?
Oh, go ahead.
I, with all due respect to Mark, will there come a point where he is not obliged to attend all of these meetings? Or does he need to stick with us through the end of the meeting? I mean, it seems like a lot of our legal issues have gone by, and I know his plate is pretty full. Do we, you know, again, no disrespect, but do we really need Mark?
I need Mark. We discussed that issue. We discussed that issue, and we're coming to the point where we believe that we don't necessarily need me to attend all the meetings unless you want me, unless there's a legal issue that you want me to attend, or that the office believes is necessary. But that's on the plate for next week.
Well, how about if we provide a recommendation that you would be invited as topics that were germane, and you could appear at those points if it fits in your schedule.
That would be great. I mean, right now my schedule is reserved for the ROCF on Wednesdays. We're working about 50% remotely. So today, for instance, I was in the court. We're roughly in court. We're actually in court physically, but doing the hearings remotely from the courthouse. Mm-hmm. And so we're there about, depending on the week, 2 to 3 days a week, not full days, but generally speaking about 1.5 to 2 days, full days there. The rest of the time we spend remotely or in the office. Today I'm in the office.
Okay, well, why don't we plan then to invite you, or if you have some updates that you think are relevant to us, to let Julie know, and we'll add you to the agenda.
I hope to have the final resolution of this issue with the Riemann Robson recommendations for you at the next meeting. But like I said, I have a meeting with Ms. McClory next week.
Okay. If for some reason that there's not a decision on that, we'll see you at a future meeting then, for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you, Mark.
So Mark, I have a question, please. I remember that Kitch made a recommendation, or at least some talking points about the issue of the city providing staff time. And I just want to make sure that you have that document. Do you know which one I mean? It was like his final recommendation relative to the 295 versus 701 question. And then the secondary recommendation information he had on there was about the city offering staff time to keep this organization moving.
Ann and I both have that document. We were discussing it a little bit.
Okay.
Last week, and we're going to be discussing it more fully next week.
Okay. Yeah, I was just going to offer to send it to you again because I wasn't sure if you were copied on it or not. So I'm glad you have it.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else for Mark then? We hope to free up some of your day on Wednesdays going forward.
That's Wednesday afternoons I tried to spend in the court doing what they call remote plea bargaining. Mm-hmm. And right now my email's blasting because of everything I did this morning on those files.
All right. Very well. Thank you again for your assistance.
Thank you.
There's no other questions or clarifications from Mark. We will make sure, we should probably make sure that we've, I'd forgotten that there was that second element of what we're waiting for on Kitch Riemann. I knew about the 295 versus 701. I'd forgotten about the compensation for staff element that still needs to be resolved. So I do wonder if we should update our agenda to be more inclusive so that we're not relying on our memories, which sometimes it's better to have it in writing. So that we're awaiting those two items. So next we'll move down into, and actually Mark, would it be helpful if we went out of order? You don't have anything else on item 11 that we could excuse you here so you did not have to spend the rest of the meeting with us?
I have nothing on left on topic 11.
All right, so we'll plan to kind of gloss that over. So if you need to opt out for your schedule, feel free.
No, my schedule for the rest of the afternoon is cleared for the ROCF.
Okay. Well, then we will move to item 10 and welcome our guest, Jody Ellison, who's the manager of the Royal Oak Animal Shelter. And we're delighted to have you join us today, Jody, a friendly face, I think, for all of us here. And be able to share some information back and forth between us is the goal today, as we have turned what was the Roots, whatever we called ourselves as Roots, into the new Royal Oak Civic Foundation and the relevance that we're planning to provide to organizations within the city of Royal Oak, kind of catalog what their needs are so that we're able to help promote in the community what community giving could support for each of the organizations and how we can be helpful to. And want to invite you to talk about what might be coming up on your plate and how we can help.
Sounds good. Thanks, Tom. I appreciate it. And I was stunned to see that I know everybody on this board. It's so fun for me. It's like to see these friendly faces. So I have a number of things that I can talk about, and please feel free to cut me off whenever you need to. I'll try not to go on for too long, but everybody here knows me. You know I can kind of prattle. So please pull me back if I get out of hand. I will start by saying, number one, thank you. Number two, no one knew what Roots stood for. No one ever got that right. I am happy to say I already have ROCF as my designee for Amazon Smile. So you guys are already getting the, 0.006 cents from me on every transaction. And I encourage that too, because obviously the animal shelter is one of the beneficiaries and we certainly appreciate that. So a couple of things with us. If you haven't been to the building, I would invite anyone on the board, once we reopen to the public, to stop by, and I would be happy to do a tour. We opened as the Dog Pound in probably the mid 50s. So we're talking about 70 years ago, and the building definitely has shown its age. In some ways, it is amazing. It's more spacious than a lot of newer facilities where each individual animal gets more room to move around. But we are certainly lacking in some creature comforts that a newer building could provide us. There has been talk over the last couple of years with a local Royal Oak business that would like to do a land swap. I'm not talking out of school here because this information all came up at a budgetary meeting a year or two ago. And so we have been actually in the process of discussing what a built out facility would look like for us. The building itself would not be new, but the use of it would be new and it would be specific to our needs. Potentially as a South Oakland hub of sorts, a much smaller one, but keeping everyone from having to go all the way to Pontiac if you lose your dog. That's one of the reasons we love having the animal shelter in Royal Oak, is we can return animals when they're lost immediately to their families. So this discussion that we've been having about potentially swapping property with a Royal Oak business, we have gone through some of the planning stage. We have talked with an architect. We do have plans drawn up. If that comes to fruition, I think it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be very close to where we are now. And that will also change our needs as opposed to what we need currently in the building we're in. We may be at that point talking about fixtures.
Anyone experiencing some sound issues?
But so that kind of in the back of your mind, so you have that to kind of think about as I also bring up what we could use if we remain in the facility we're in now. Tom, you look like you have a question.
I do. My audio cut out, and I think a few of ours may as well. And so I missed a little bit of what you were saying, how your need would change.
I can't hear you. I don't know if anybody else can.
Can you hear me? Anyone? Okay.
I can hear you.
Okay.
I hear you, and I heard the static that blocked out Jody.
And there was some static that blocked you out, Jody.
Well, let's try this again. We're going to try. I don't know if you can hear me. I can't hear you guys, so I'm going to try my headphones because occasionally. All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Yep. So it may well have been me because my system is about as old as the building. And so it does sometimes cut out. Okay. So what was the question? I'm so sorry. I missed all of that.
So some static came over what you were talking about, how your needs would change from the old building to the new building.
Right. Right. Okay. Okay. So yeah, we don't necessarily know what the needs would be in the new building. The business that is looking to swap with us would be hopefully spearheading a lot of the fundraising. So at that point, we would have a better idea of what we might need in a newer building or what they're also bringing in from other businesses and other individuals. And I think that potentially a collaboration between you and them and us, of course, at that point would be beneficial to everybody. If we were to remain in the building that we're in right now, you see all of my artwork, there are several things. First and foremost, I think we would benefit from having a vehicle. It doesn't have to be a new vehicle, but a transport vehicle for animals and supplies. We have always depended upon staff and volunteers for their personal vehicles. Not normally a problem. People like to be helpful. Unfortunately, when you're transporting animals, sometimes there's that, animals are not always neat and tidy. And when they're nervous going to the vet or coming back, sometimes we can get messes in our personal vehicles. And it would just be lovely to have an organizational vehicle where we could do transport and not have to worry about putting our volunteers in that type of a position. The building we're in now, if we stay here within the next 2 or 3 years, it will need a new roof. We have done great things with patching up the roof, and it's very operational, but we have been told by roofing people that it has a couple of years left in it. So it's getting near the end there. Our outdoors fencing and concrete work would need to be addressed. I don't know the extent of that because that would really depend upon whether it's a repair or a rip out and replace. Simple things. We need a new freezer. Our freezer has gone out. Oh goodness, what else? I've got my list here. Let me get back and see if I can remember rather than trying to do this all from memory. Excuse me a second. Our driveway is terrible. It always washes out. It could use to be paved or concreted. That would be probably a huge expense. And as long as it continues to be graded, it's usable. But if we're looking at the long term, that would be a great thing to look at. For the staff and volunteers, trainings and conferences, that's not budgeted for us at all. So in order to keep us at the point where we are following best practices and we are up to date on what's happening in the industry, those would be wonderful, as would professional memberships. I have a few other items, but they're all things that I could give to you in a form rather than taking up your time with listing everything. And I think it's probably a better use of your time if you ask me if you've got specific questions, or if I completely missed the mark there, pull me back on and tell me what you need to hear.
No, I think it was really helpful, and getting a list, a hard copy list, would be helpful as well. Do you get a sense of when you'll get a go or no go decision on the land swap?
Well, yes and no. We started the major discussion near the end of 2019, of course, and continued to do planning early in 2020. Then we went remote. We got back together a couple of times for distanced meetings. But one of the major actors spends part of his time in Florida, and so it was while he was gone for the winter, things got put on hold. I am hoping within the next month or so, and potentially Chief O'Donoghue or DC Frazier have more current information than I do, because they're obviously they're the de facto representatives for the city. I've been brought in to help with the design process and to address what our needs would be and spatial elements, because obviously I've done this a couple of times. But they are the ones who are controlling the city's timeline. So I would say if you have questions about that, they would be the best ones to address.
Okay. So I would absolutely enjoy being part of whatever discussions about fundraising would happen too. I think we might be able to provide some either additional community contacts or whatever we can do to kind of campaign that up and really give it a lot of notoriety and potentially even some match funds too, based on some other fundraising things. So anything that we can do to provide some good catalyst to your process, I think would be nice.
Well, that would certainly be very helpful for me. And I don't know if people are aware, but I'm a part-time employee, and like the budget is not under my purview. It's under the police department's purview. So as far as matching funds, that would be hugely helpful, because I am the animal professional, but I'm not the one setting those numbers and making sure that's all in place. Having those of you who are focused on raising funds working side by side with them would be a huge boon for them, no doubt.
Is it in your long-term plans to make the position full-time?
Well, I have said from the beginning that it should be a full-time position, whether or not I'm the one doing it. In a city like Royal Oak, where we really want to, my focus on this is not to just maintain, which is basically what we've been able to do over the last couple of years, especially again with COVID. But my focus on the position is to make animal control an educational and outreach department, less of we found your lost animal, that will still be part of it, but being that arm for the community policing department or model, I guess, where we work with people to let them know how to deal with their animals, keep their animals in their home, potentially set up a community food pantry. Char's heard some of this because she sits on the animal shelter committee. But I would really like us to have a lot more active programs where we work with citizens and community members, as opposed to just being reactionary and dealing with the lost animals and that type of thing. I think that's the future of animal care through shelters and rescues.
Sure. And during our last meeting, I think it was Mark, you may have brought up that there was a change or an uptick in animal bites, both animals biting other animals, based on dog owners not understanding the courtesy of not putting two dogs in close proximity when they're walking on past each other on a sidewalk, or humans being bitten by animals too.
There's been an increase in both.
Okay, and I wonder if community information to push out that, if that needed a resource too. I wonder if that could be on your list as well.
Well, yeah, and interestingly, another thing that I bring to the table here is I'm a board member for the Michigan Pet, which used to be the Michigan Pet Fund Alliance, which is now the Michigan Pet Alliance. We've gone from being a volunteer organization to now we've just started the 501c3. And sitting on the board, one of the things that we are doing is putting out informational videos, things like dog bites, things like why breed-specific legislation is bad, what to do with community cats. So all of that stuff I can pretty quickly bring to the table. And if the city is interested in partnering, there is also that opportunity for a membership with MPA where that would be immediately at their fingertips.
What would that cost be to have that membership? Do you know?
It's not that bad. I think an individual membership is somewhere between 35 and 50. I'm a member with my rescue, and it was 75 a year for a, and I may get this wrong, but I want to say for 250 to 500,000 a year budget would be about a 125. So it's a very reasonable amount. It's brand new. We just rolled that out within the last couple of months, so I don't know the numbers off the top of my head.
Okay. But if we were able to provide you a grant for that membership to be able to get either online resources that could be published on the Royal Oak website or things like that would be pretty quick for the community.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. And it would just come down to whether or not the city was okay with the membership. They would obviously have to approve it. And I can pull the other stuff together very, very quickly. I could do that mostly myself.
Okay.
Yeah, I like this idea. Given that we are having an uptick on dog bites, it might be super helpful to have a link to one or two of those videos that go out with the Friday e-blast, because I think that hits 5,000 to 7,000 email addresses every Friday. It's the one that Carol Schwanger and Judy Davids shared, getting out on Fridays.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you had some direction of what you'd like to see, I'd be more than happy to compile that information for you too. I can even speak to Judy and Carol about that once it's a little more distilled.
Just basically, Jody, in anecdotally, we're waiting for some statistics from the police department, but there's been an explosion of dog bites, both dog on dog and dog on people.
Well, and I'm not surprised. People have been home and people are out. They're walking their neighborhoods. They're doing it at the same time when the weather's beautiful. So I'm not surprised at all. And unfortunately, too many people, you're going to get me on my soapbox here. Too many people have had a dog and they know, oh, well, my dog is like this, or my dog would never, or what have you. And I first knew Tom because of my last professional career, which was I owned a pet boarding and daycare facility, and we specialized in group play for dogs. Once you have spent time with dogs interacting through their own methods and by their own rules, you learn an awful lot. Most people don't have that, that kind of the privilege to have had that time. But I am not surprised at all, because people think all dogs are the same. And I'll make a comment here quickly too. Animal control works hand in hand with me. We're sort of parallel, both under the police department. But even though I am a certified animal control officer, I do not function as one for the city. I did that on my own because I thought it would be helpful, since we have a single ACO. It would be helpful to have somebody else in the city who is trained and could help and assist on calls. So I did that with our last animal control officer and have, so that's why I have my certification. I would really hope that if we get into a position where we have a newer facility, we could base our animal control officer out of that facility so that the two staffs are interacting on a daily basis, and we can all be up to speed with what the other is doing. That would be hugely helpful to us as well.
Sounds good. I mean, just to give you a sense of, and this is anecdotal numbers, but between myself and my colleague, we would see a small handful of dog bites a year. Now it's magnitudely changes, 10 to 20 times higher.
Yeah, and I only see a few of those reports when somebody will send it to the shelter's email. And then I forward it on to the ACO, to the PD, and then they will take it to county or whatever has to happen with it. But I don't see very many of those. So I wasn't aware that the numbers were up that high. But again, I'm not that surprised. It makes perfect sense. We've had the perfect storm with, you know, people being home, which is a lovely thing. It's great that people are spending time with their animals, but educating them on how to best deal with other people and their animals would be a good thing.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Judy, sorry, Jody, just a clarifying question.
Yes.
That is, with the MPA membership, do you know of videos that touch on this exact subject? You know, manners,
I know, yep.
Manners when walking, or, you know, whatever that might be called.
Well, yeah, manners would be a fine way to put it. I know that we do have one about dog bites, how to avoid. That's in the can. I haven't seen it, but it was produced as part of an outreach program that we were doing. We do have a someone on our board who actually puts together videos. That's kind of what she does, is video production, and so that could happen. If there were other topics that you would like to see handled, then I could certainly put those out there. It helps us as well because we're looking for topics. So having someone come back and say, this would be useful to us, kind of, again, is a nice merging.
Okay. And are these short videos, you know, in the neighborhood of 2 or 3 minutes?
Yeah, I do believe they are. I want to say the one is perhaps 3, but again, I haven't seen it. So I'll follow up with my contact and see if I can even get a preview of that I could send on to you guys. And if it's something that you'd like to use, then all we have to do is, you know, if it's ready to go, then I just have to let you know it's good, it's yours.
Okay, great. Yes, let's keep in touch about that.
Thank you.
Jody, what's the name of the association again?
The Michigan Pet Alliance.
Oh, got it.
MichiganPet.org. Yeah, it was the Michigan Pet Fund Alliance, and we are actually the group that brought Michigan to no kill. That was our stated objective, and we did accomplish that. And at that point, we decided rather than simply disappear, we would become a membership organization that would establish and promote best practices for companion animals in Michigan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I found your
Go ahead. I told you I can prattle, so.
Yeah, I just sent the link out on the chat.
Perfect. Thank you.
Great. Other questions of Jody?
Just that, Jody, really appreciate you taking the time. I've taken quite a few notes here. I think you've given us some really good ideas. Maybe it's just a question for the board as far as next steps, and maybe just to kind of refresh my memory. Are we going to go across and meet with different leaders and kind of gather all of this input and make decisions, or, you know, at a later date, or how are we going to get back with some of the leaders from around Royal Oak?
I think our plan is to start to catalog all of the different main needs at varying levels too. So the high level, if it was a $100,000 need or $50,000 need, down to the few hundreds as well too. So we'd have the chance to do 2 things. One would be to look at what types of campaigns we could run, and analyze what types of fundraising we could potentially connect to those. If we wanted to do anything that was around annual giving, to assist groups who maybe weren't fundraising or didn't have the resources to reach out to larger groups, you know, would we have, I think, in our next steps to get some sort of software or a customer relationship management software like a Razor's Edge or something to be able to take donations in, acknowledge donors, record the history as well. And then I think our goal was also to then in the next few months, start to look at our grant application process as well too, so that we could start to handle with some of the money we're getting from Robertson Brothers, do some smaller level grants to the groups that we're meeting with too. So we're having immediate impact.
Okay, thank you.
I'd love to be able to help with that membership quickly to get those resources and help push that out too. I like it from an awareness campaign standpoint too, both for funds that we've taken in recently to be able to be used to help promote that as well. And then look to your longer term needs. If there is something that you'll find out maybe later this year about the land swap, how can we be relevant to help with that too?
I appreciate that. Yeah.
And if I may, because I do serve on the Animal Shelter Committee, the committee role is largely fundraising. That focus has been firmed up by the fact that at least for this fiscal year, the city agreed to fully fund the shelter, which it had not done in the past. And if indeed that, and I've got my, hang on a sec. I have my draft city budget here. So we most certainly will be looking at, and talking about whether or not what we can and should as a city commit to operating the shelter. But whatever we do, it's probably going to be pretty bare bones. Leaving the volunteers on the committee and others to raise any sort of, optional discretionary money on behalf of the shelters. So this is kind of a work in progress. The committee itself is trying to decide what role they can play and how they can be as more effective.
Okay. What type of fundraising does the animal shelter do currently? I've only heard of a few of the different past fundraisers, like I think there was a calendar project, there's a t-shirt project, things like that. I'm curious, do you have ongoing annual giving options, special events, which of course are precarious these days in COVID, things like that?
The work has been pretty ad hoc and very retail in nature. So they did a dog walk last year, and this year we're doing a virtual dog walk. You buy a t-shirt and the proceeds go towards the animal shelter, and people go, I don't know, walk their dog wearing their t-shirt. They had a major fundraiser planned for mid-COVID period, so that one fell by the wayside. But they have it's been the calendar project was very successful a number of years ago, but it's a 7-person committee, and it takes a lot of knowledge and connections and ability to pull those sorts of things together effectively, which is why they've talked about, in fact, we brought in the Friends of the Library and the library director to talk about how those agencies cooperate as a possible model for the animal shelter. So that's kind of simmering in the background.
That's helpful, because one of the questions I had kind of in the back of my mind was on some of these really great ideas and options, which are items that, the city typically, or there's a low chance that the city will fund, because we really want to focus on fundraising efforts to supplement, not supplant, the city's budget. And so that's helpful. But so it's good that we have Shar involved in that you can kind of give us the inside track on the direction that the committee and the city may be going.
Yeah, and if I can interject, basically what the city has done are the basics, the necessities, the food, medical care, the overhead for the building, obviously the building itself, and staffing. It's myself, and at this point, one other part-time staffer. But that's where the city has and purposefully drawn the line, which goes back 15, almost 20 years. Long story that Shar could fill you in on at some point if you had the time. Yeah, it's a lot, but not a lot of luxuries, not a lot of anything other than the absolute necessities. So which is why the committee is in place. Again, back to that long story, and suited for another time and place when you guys can sit down, have a beverage, and, you know, go back and forth over it, I think.
Well, I don't know if we talked about it as a committee. We talk about funding specific initiatives to create impact, but I don't know that we've discussed that we would provide the startup costs for a group to do its own fundraising, so that it helps them to be able to use 100% of the proceeds versus having those, you know, percent eroded. And we can, of course, look at can we find some of the in-kind resources to have something printed or things like that too. Right. So I wonder if our relevance can extend in that way as well too.
I mean, I think it's certainly an option, not to speak for anybody else, but yeah. Any help you could give, we would be appreciative of, because we at this point, the fundraising that we've done is really not sustainable. It's pretty much all, as Shar said, ad hoc. It's all one off. So coming up with a better plan would be a great place for us to start too.
I'd be curious, as you talk to your fundraising board, what ideas really resonate with them too. And I'm glad to join in those conversations too, if there's something that we can try and help them concept with that would be, you know, turnkey, or, you know, something that could be repeatable as well too, that, you know, like, i.e., you know, calendars, people need them once a year, you know, t-shirts, you know, could it be a new t-shirt that's developed every year and is, you know, super popular and sold through retailers in downtown Royal Oak? So I'd be curious to brainstorm and see if we could find some resources that would provide some ongoing resources for you.
And I'm sure the committee would be happy to invite you to one of the meetings and or to a work session, because that's awesome. I appreciate that. Sure. Thank you.
So if there are not any other questions, if we could get your wish list of what are the main things. We're looking to catalog those, and we're trying to figure out, do we put together some sort of wish list that's pushed out to the community online or something as well. And we want to kind of see what all the big needs are, and we will figure out how to present them after that.
Fabulous. I'll go ahead and I can email that to Julie, and if she wants to distribute, I'll do our day-to-day, which is, you know, food and gift cards and money. And then I'll do the bigger ones, like the vehicle and the concrete work and the fencing, that type of thing.
Great.
I'll get those both to her. Thank you so much. I appreciate the time today.
Glad to have you, Jody.
And good to see everybody.
Good to see everybody. Yeah, good to see you. And hopefully we'll see you in person real soon.
Absolutely. I'm off to the shelter. All right.
Okay. Thanks for your work.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Any last thoughts on the presentation?
I have one about your annual T-shirt, your idea. What if OCC students could have a competition and make the design?
Love it, love it, love it.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
And so we get to tie in additional community outreach.
Yep, and we can help promote that a little bit too. I love that idea.
So I've been, my bright idea is, you know, you talk about a calendar. Excuse me. I like the idea of using attractive police officers and firefighters holding kitties and puppies.
Not me, Tom, and Alex.
I didn't.
No, you guys are
Mark, well, maybe if we throw Mark in there, maybe we'll change your mind. Maybe
I don't know. Take your shirts off, and I'll let you know. Oh God, is that inappropriate?
I'm sure we didn't record it. That's all.
It's just recorded in a public meeting, but we're good.
You're talking about the animals. You didn't want to dress them up. It's fine, Shar. I understand. And Mark, we would need some bees too. So.
Well, and I've seen calendars like that sell really well too. So is the group considering that? You never know. You never know.
I'm just jealous that Troy has an official police cat and we don't.
Well, you have Romy. You have your official dog.
Yeah, official dog.
There's a big one wandering around in Florida. Maybe you could track that one down.
I think that would blow the animal shelter's budget for.
That's great. Well, I think we can certainly be of help, and be curious to hear how the group, their directions start to come together and what resources we can help provide. It's a well-needed and I think well-loved community service too.
Yep.
All right, if there's not anything else on item 10, we were going to bounce over item 11 and go back to our first 5 years goal timeline and any other thoughts the group had on pieces to add to it.
Excuse me, Tom. I just thought of something related to number 10. Do you mind if I back up a bit? That is, who should be our next guest? I don't have that written down. Animal shelter was number 1. Where do we go with our legacy groups from there? Shar, do you have a?
Well, I'm going to say Nature Society only because, you know, the Parks and Recreation was one of the top 2 issues raised by the City Commission, and they play a vital role. And it'll be interesting too because they're celebrating their 20th anniversary this year. So this is a good time to ask them to tell us all they've accomplished, which is a lot.
Okay, is that okay with everyone else?
Sounds good to me.
Sounds great.
All right, so they'll be the ones that I asked to come to our June meeting. Thank you.
Should we just knock it out right now and just ask, like, I order the rest? Yeah. Only in case like someone's not available, like if they're not available at our next meeting.
Sure. Does the Park and Rec would be a separate meeting from the Nature Society, correct? No, we met with Parks and Rec last week.
Yeah, we already did Parks, which also includes senior services, but they did make allusions to asking Paige about some stuff too, I think.
Right.
Who's in charge of the seniors? And
I had reached out to Paige independently, and she had said that their needs for now were pretty handled in terms of some of the hot pieces too. But I think if we get a separate list from her at some point. So Historical Commission is also on the list. Arts Commission, I think. Or who am I missing?
Farmers Market?
They're not on the list anymore.
Okay.
What about other general departments like police and fire? We've met with the animal shelter that's a sub-function of that, but are there community safety needs that we could be talking to the police and fire department that they would need our assistance with?
I feel like it's an easy one from a grants perspective because I know they've pulled down grants. I don't know if and I think that was part of a gap, right, for that our creation helps fill. And I kind of defer to you on that question, Julie.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you say that again?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. For like police and fire, I think wasn't part of ROCF like filling a gap around being like a C3 for any grants that they wanted to pull down or things like that.
I don't remember that, but I do see that public safety written that way as part of our legacy group's definition. Mm-hmm. So I can just read this out for us. It's animal shelter, library, nature society, parks and rec, seniors, commission for the arts, historical commission, which has Star House in parentheses, and public safety.
Wouldn't we just
like we have our Peter's suggesting the same?
Yeah, just that's our list. I mean,
I was going to suggest putting library later, only because I think they're going through executive search right now. But I wouldn't want to do that to them unnecessarily, though. I don't think the ordering was anything with any intention either.
Yeah, I don't think it was either. And the library is also in the middle of a refurb of the inside of their building. So they're all very busy right now. Okay, so I have Nature Society set up for June. Do you want me to just go through this list and put them in?
Yeah.
And then try to get library at the end?
Yeah, just based on their schedule, it'd be more, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Okay. All right. Okay, sounds great. I'll do that.
Great, thanks, Julie. So, and Alex, good idea. Let's go to our item 12, first 5 years goal timeline. I wonder, does it make sense to share it?
Yeah.
Okay, let me get there. Okay. Oops.
So we might just want to update our list to make sure it matches the list that you you read off, Julie.
Okay, do you see the my shared screen?
We do, yes.
Okay, and which list are you talking about? I'm sorry.
Under the 2021-2022 city coordination, I put in a partial list. So I was missing, what am I missing?
Public safety.
Yep.
I think that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, so let's look at all of 2021-22 together then, if you wouldn't mind scrolling down just slightly. So this is our charge for the year. You know, we've had some hits in publicity, which is good, but board growth, which is I think our next topic on our agenda too, we'll need to keep an eye on as well. So how does the group feel about us doing something around the holidays and doing an annual appeal that would be recognized, done cyclically in the November, December timeframe, and themed around supporting your city when people are most apt to give during the holiday season, and for tax benefits when you can claim it?
I think it's a good idea. Would it be just a general campaign or like a themed campaign?
I think we'd theme it, and I think it would be the opportunity to sub-select any of the groups as well. So it'll tie back into this catalog, and I'm thinking as rudimentary as, remember the Sears Wish Book. There was a catalog that was presented annually, and kids bought what they wanted. Do we put a catalog online of here are, if you wanted to make a gift to support these organizations during the holiday timeframes, or make a gift in honor of someone or as a gift that we would acknowledge, and make it something that you can present to someone as a gift at your end as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. The other thing I was thinking about is could be a good goal for us and also the folks we're meeting with, the different groups, as far as getting together their lists of potential donors or previous donors or something like along those lines. I don't want to take their list, but just thinking about a coordinated, to your point, Tom, a little bit of like a coordinated outreach component, especially if they're not doing that already. Does that make sense? So I was thinking about just kind of what's our donor list or prospective donor list.
Right. And I think we could also give them the guarantee that we would have this produced digitally so that their donors wouldn't necessarily receive a general appeal, but would receive something that would be would name the organization they had made the gift to. So if we went to the animal shelter and said, give us your list of donors, we will send out an appeal on your behalf. It'll look like the rest, but the language will all be tailored around your organization.
So can you hear me? So I'm going to chime in with a different perspective, or maybe a couple different possible perspectives. One would be, rather than doing this sort of siloed fundraising for the different legacy groups, is to do an appeal for the foundation itself, to give us some operating money to use as we see fit, consistent with our priorities. Or if not that, then address the priority that the city commission has given us, and if we're going to do a broad general appeal, do it around parks and recreation and those sorts of activities. Because I think we would have, in either of those two ways, I think we would have, certainly in the second way, we would have a greater impact. So that would be my somewhat differing opinion.
In my mind's eye, I'm seeing that if we have X number of, thousands of people who live in Royal Oak, everybody gets the letter, but we would be able to subset those who have made prior contributions to some of the legacy organizations. So it all goes out at the same time. But if you have given to a legacy organization, then we would encourage you to continue to give. And for everyone else who hasn't, would get that more general appeal.
I get that.
I was thinking too, I mean, many of these would be passed through the Royal Oak Civic Foundation, though, right? So for the tax, I'm blanking on the word, deductible component, right? There's the word. And so, I mean, we could be explicit about like charging basically a processing fee for it as well. Not that that's going to really that helps pay for it as far as the bookkeeping and some of our overhead, but still gives the benefit to the donor of the tax designated tax deduction. Apparently having trouble with that word. I don't know if that's way too in the minutia on the strategy at this point, but I'm just trying to marry the two pieces, two insights you're both leveraging.
Yeah, so Alex, you bring up something that I've been thinking about lately. The treasurer has PayPal accounts for each of the legacy groups. And on various websites, including ours, people can give directly to those legacy groups. And those funds that come in that way do not come in front of you all for pass through, right? So there's, kind of a line, but it's still a bit foggy about, when the money is coming through Royal Oak Civic Foundation as a 501c3, and when the money is just going directly into their individual coffers. And I think that is, something that we should discuss. But right now, anybody can make a donation to the animal shelter through PayPal and it goes directly to them. Just a part of that thinking about how the structure is set up right now. So if we sent out a campaign, an annual campaign, I mean, it's possible for us just to attach the link for the animal shelter. And that would leave us out of any kind of administrative duties, right? Because it would just go to a PayPal account that's already set up. What it doesn't allow us to do is to capture the impact that we're having because of our annual campaign if we do it that way. So I just want to put that out there and hope that makes sense to you all.
If they donate through the PayPal, is it tax deductible?
Mark, can you help me with that?
Always there.
These mute buttons. I don't think it would be.
Yeah, because I think that's the benefit that we provide then. Sorry to interject. Go ahead, Mark.
No, I did not know that there were individual accounts. The benefit was to establish the Royal Oak Civic Foundation was to also benefit the Legacy Roots group by allowing people to have a potential tax deduction when they donated, and then the foundation passed it through to the city.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
a direct contribution would be tax deductible.
Yeah, sorry, I may have said it in a confusing way. My apologies. So the PayPal account is called Royal Oak Civic Foundation, but they have like sub accounts.
Gotcha.
So when somebody comes to the animal shelter link, they can click that and the money will be donated to the animal shelter directly. So it doesn't come into our account where I have to ask you to pass it through to the animal shelter.
Do we still get a record of, from a soft credit perspective, that we know a donation has gone?
Yes.
Okay.
To the animal shelter directly. That is forwarded to me from the treasurer. So we don't get it directly, but it's just, like an additional email message that goes out. And I've been saving all of those in a folder in case we wanted to see that at some point. But but they're emails, and I could ask and find out if there's a way for us to run, or if Treasury could run an Excel spreadsheet that would allow us to, perhaps load those into a database and use it as a mailing list also.
But those contributions to that PayPal account that go directly to, let's just say, the animal shelter, are those tax deductible?
That was my question to.
So it sounds like no.
So I believe someone told me once, and I can't quote them, that indeed, if you make a contribution to a municipal activity, it is tax deductible. But the purpose for a foundation was because there are foundations, private charities, public charities, that can only give to a 501c3. So that was really the central reason for needing a foundation. And then I think secondarily to coalesce all of the city's fundraising activities under one umbrella. But I do think, as I say, if you write a check to the animal shelter, it is tax deductible.
That's my understanding. There was some question though about whether or not donating to a municipal or governmental entity would be tax deductible. So that, together with your recollection about allowing the city to seek foundation support, which in some foundations which will only donate to another 501c3, was the major, just like you said, it was the major impetus to push this forward.
Mark, is it possible to find out if donations that are going through the Royal Oak Civic Foundation portal directly to the animal shelter or Nature Society, etc., if those are actually tax deductible?
Do we care?
If it's going through the ROC PayPal, I'd say yes. And it's just a subcategory of pegging your donation.
But why would we care?
It's of interest to me to know how the whole system works, so that if there's a conversation that comes up, we understand the value of Royal Oak Civic Foundation, because people could make donations to the animal shelter before we were established. And so it's just like a matter of understanding our narrative, in my mind. Right.
But so even if someone says, asks any of us, that question, your standard answer is you need to consult your tax advisor. That is, the deductibility is really all on the donor's side, leaving us in a position to say, well, all I know is that, yes, your donations to the Civic Foundation are absolutely tax deductible as a 501c3. And as for the rest, again, go ask your tax advisor.
That's a good standard response.
But our goal is also to be able to steward these donors. So we want information to be able to put into our database so that we're building our relationship and they're giving over time too. So are we getting that information though through those emails, Julie? That when we get a CRM program, we can enter that info in?
I think we can get it from Excel spreadsheets that the Treasury can run.
Okay.
Because they get all of the information that comes through. And my understanding is sometimes there are email addresses and sometimes there are not. But there's always a name and to whom the donation is going and what the donation is.
Okay. So just a connected conversation, we likely have not finalized our customer relationship software decision either. I think we had a brief discussion, it was probably more than a year ago, on what we thought we would need to be able to categorize that. Is that correct? We've not come on a formal recommendation.
No, we have not.
Okay.
So it's, as we look at this as the 2021, our 21 work plan, under fundraising focus, to me, it would probably be enough for us to systematize our CRM, as Tom has suggested, and B, do one annual campaign thing, tied around the traditional holiday giving cycle. I mean, so there may be other opportunities that come up where someone's got an idea and we do a quick one-off, but as an institution, just, organizing all of that and doing a single, which would be a pretty large direct mail campaign in the fall, is a big chew.
Wow.
Now, I wonder if we can start to pull data from the city from the tax records of all the residents, if that's the correct use of it, and then we would start to put people in our database once they've made a gift, just to keep most current information and to keep our data entry limited to gifts. Is that the best place to get a list of all the City of Royal Oak residents' names, addresses, etc.?
That we may use?
Correct. And do we have authority to use that, I guess, as well for a direct mail campaign?
Boy, there's a good question.
Yeah, how would you obtain the list?
Yeah. What's our process for that? The idea that we all live in Royal Oak in some way, I think. How would we get on that list? What
you could. A lot of these lists are public information. The voter file is public information. The assessment file is public information. So really don't see any legal privacy issues.
So one thing we would have to do, though, is in fundraising, we would have to have an opt-out and be able to manage that for our campaigns going forward, too. So if someone, it's required IRS language to be able to report back and say, take of future distributions of things. We'll have to manage that function as well. So we'd have to create a suppress file that we would manage based on people who had received a letter and then send an email back saying, take me off your fundraising list.
Tom, is that true of direct mail, like hard copy direct mail?
It's true of fundraising where you're making an appeal. But in terms of just direct mail that would come from a corporation, here, come buy my product, I don't believe it's the same for that, and I'm not the subject matter expert on that one for sure. But it's finable by I think it's the IRS, that if someone has asked to be taken off and you don't, then there's a treble fine for the amount of times that you don't follow the donor's request to be removed from a fundraising distribution list.
Huh.
Would instead of sending something out to every resident in Royal Oak, is there? There has to be, and maybe there's several. I'll call it databases, but just collection of emails, addresses of previous donors to the animal shelter, to the fire department. I have to believe that each department has a kind of a list that they might be able to share with us, so that we're sending correspondence to likely donors. Like, when you're running a campaign, you send it to likely voters. Is there a way that we might be able to narrow that down a little bit versus blank? Because it's very expensive to send. How many residents are in Oakland or in Royal Oak? There's got to be. I seem to remember like 60, 70,000.
There's about 25,000 addresses.
25,000 addresses. Okay.
Yeah. So Pete, I think that's a good question. It's kind of where I was thinking we would go, is using actual names from the PayPal Excel spreadsheet that can be printed up, and then perhaps sorting it by which entity they donated to, because we certainly can sort or filter on columns. And so maybe that should be one of my next tasks, is to get with the Treasury Department and see what would it take for them to give us a list, from today back to, however long we want to reach back.
And then we start with that, and then we can build from there maybe.
And start with that, yeah. So, and then the second thing I want to say before I forget, I have started an Excel spreadsheet for donors that have happened in 2020 and 2021. And those donors meaning people who have sent checks that I handle and then bring those dollar amounts to you all for the payables approval. And certainly that list could be combined too.
So I have a question. Are we talking about the whole 5-year plan? Because I feel like we've gotten in the weeds on, you know, details of a fundraising mailing. Maybe we want to kind of put a pin in this and then move on and look at the other years.
That's a good idea.
Although, you know, in some ways it's helpful for me to just have in my mind a bigger picture for the coming year, just so if things pop up that are related, you know, I can always move forward on those or bring them to your attention. So digging in a little bit like this was helpful for me, and I appreciate that.
Well, I think that goes back on next month's agenda.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Let's pull out pieces that we know require more discussion for next time's agenda, and look more generally. Do we have everything in order for the 5-year plan? And being sensitive, we have 32 minutes in today's meeting, so we want to make sure we discuss this and then the next 2 options too.
Yeah, so one thing I noticed in 23-24, that's where we have board growth at 2 members and community administrative volunteer to assist Julie. I wonder if that could be moved up to 22-23, because I would expect once we start moving forward, it's going to get, there will be more administrative work that needs to happen to run multiple campaigns, fundraising events, etc.
Sure.
So should I add 2 members, new personnel, PR, community administrative volunteer? So do we want to swap this for another one here? Or would we like to add 3 members in 22-23?
How soon do we think we'll be ready to do planned giving? Do we think that's a sooner or later proposition?
I'm inclined to think it's a sooner.
Yeah.
I've been of the long held the opinion that there are people out there who love this city, who would love to leave money to the city. And the sooner we talk to them, you know, the sooner they have an opportunity to make that legacy pledge.
I agree.
Yeah, I was gonna say having it as an option, you know, at least as an option, definitely. And how's that? Definitely as an option, potentially as a strategy.
Okay. So let's review the volunteers we're going to add in, or the board growth we're going to add in 2021 quickly. Let's go slide up on the document. Corporate executive foundation grant administrators, people that have expertise in what we're doing next. Does this still make sense based on even today's discussion?
Julie, do you need a foundation grant administrator?
I don't know. Foundation grant administrator. I wonder, was that put in there because the 2 candidate trustees have those backgrounds, Tom, or is it just coincidence that they kind of match up?
I think it was a coincidence. We were in putting this in, I put that down so that we were getting any mechanical advice from someone who does this already for like an herb foundation, someone like that, and might also have contacts as well for us to be able to network with their counterparts to bring money in as well. So I actually wonder if we should add a foundation grant administrator and maybe a foundation fundraising grant writer as well too. Would that augment your needs? Someone who can do the database searches and look for matches for programs and those opportunities.
Yeah, that would be super helpful.
Okay, so why don't we up that to add 3 members, corporate executive who might have business contacts for sponsorship, foundation grant administrator that has the mechanics element of how we're going to distribute money and can advise on that, and a nonprofit grant writer / researcher that would have that skill base. And I'm trying to recall the person that we identified at our last meeting, which of the backgrounds did that person have?
One is a corporate executive, and the other works for foundation grants, right? Alex, can you name those? One is Robertson Brothers.
Yeah, one's Area Agency on Aging.
Yeah, Area Agency on Aging.
Great, okay.
And the third is a private practice attorney.
So when we say foundation grant administrator, are we talking about someone who works for a foundation and gives out money, or someone who works for a nonprofit managing grants?
I think we're going to do both. So we have someone that's both on the distribution side to advise us on the mechanics of our operation, and someone who solicits those grants in writing to be an extra set of hands to Julie.
Okay. Yeah, that clarifies. Good. Thanks, Julie.
Okay. And Tom, you said something about the corporate executive too. Maybe I'll just define that also. Can you say that again, please?
So that would be a community leader who has business contacts to provide resources. It's a really long way to say that. So.
Okay.
And here's a related question. Are there any main print houses in the city of Royal Oak?
Doesn't the city have its own?
Yeah, we have a print function, a printer. Mark, what do we call, that's the print shop. We have our own print shop.
It has some pretty decent capabilities, but it doesn't have the capabilities to produce glossy $25,000 magazine, 25,000 addressed magazines.
Well, yeah, we do have print shops. There's the one up on Crooks, which I've used and seems to have a pretty good capacity. Then the question is, are they also a mail house?
Yeah, that's critical.
Right. And I don't know if they are.
I know of quite a few in Madison Heights that are mail houses, but they're in Madison Heights.
Yep. All the print houses we use that do both. And I use print house as a joint term for both handling all print needs and the mail house side as well too. They're all in Madison Heights too, the ones that I work with.
And then just to call out too, I don't know if we're able to use either like the city's code or if we need to set up a nonprofit code with USPS.
That's an interesting question. I'm going to guess that I'm going to guess no, but let me take a look into that.
All right, so back in this discussion, we've got about a little over 20 minutes left in today's meeting. Our board growth for 21-22, which will launch into our next conversation. Anything else we want to add to this, or would you like to make this kind of a continuing old business and we'll continue to look at this for the next few meetings and then make adjustments as we add some specific topics to discuss?
I think it's a good idea to just kind of keep it there in the background to come back to it from time to time and tweak it. I think that makes sense. And then that way we're always giving Julie as well as ourselves a little bit of guidance on where we're headed and kind of keep us grounded, but yet flexibility to adjust.
Yeah, sounds great.
All right.
I was gonna say make it a living document as opposed to on the shelf, like most organizational strategies.
Sounds good. All right. Was there anything else that we need to add today, or should we move on to our next topic? Any other thoughts, questions, or clarifications?
Yeah, I have one just for 22 and 23 about the board growth. Do we want to continue to add 3 in that year because we've added the community administrative volunteer? And we've taken it from the 23-24, so that means we only have 1.
Let's leave 2022 to 23 okay with 3, and then let's add in a second one for the 23-24 then. So we've got someone who would be high visibility. Do we want someone? Let's see. We're starting to staff our subcommittees at this point.
So I think I need to take this out.
Why don't we? Yeah, I was gonna flag that. Like, we could identify 2 to 3 people per committee or something like that. It's a lot.
So what number would you change board growth to accommodate the growth of committees?
Well, my thought is we'd probably want, we would need, I have to go to the bylaws for this, but we would, say at least 1 board member per committee. And I think they may be written where we have at least 2. So until we have enough, that would mean that many of us are on multiple committees, which is not a problem, but I just want to recognize the amount of roles.
So how many subcommittees do we have? Or
that's what I was trying to pull up.
We have
4?
Governance, right?
Finance.
And finance. And nominated.
And was there a grants committee too that we identified?
Are you able to pull that up, Alex, or do you want me to?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
And of course, we're able to create anytime we want because we have that authority. Sorry, I'm still scrolling through other components. There we go. Article 7 committees. Standing committees include the executive committee, finance, grants, governance, and nominating. So 4.
So let's change that to add 2 to 10 members.
Okay, I'm sorry, Tom, will you say that again?
Add 2 to 10 members. So we're putting the quantity to Alex's point about let's stay ahead of how the high volume of that for that year. And the news personality is just an opinion. It's not something that I would say is fantastic or not. It just gives us some more notoriety if we think that that's important.
You might say media personality.
Hmm. And let's make that 1 media personality. So we put a goal in there.
1.
So of the 2 to 10, it includes 1 media personality, and the others are all community leaders that would assist with the subcommittees. And we can take out the XXX and the and. Any other updates to this?
Just to, I guess, clarify my earlier comment about the amount required for each committee. The executive committee is all of the elected officers that have board vote, so the 4 of us. The finance committee includes the chair, which is the treasurer, as well as it includes a minimum of 2 trustees, which can include the treasurer. And then the grants committee includes a minimum of 2 trustees. The governance and nominating committee only requires 1, and however many people we want to put on it. So between that, that's 2. If every required number was 1 person, that's 2, 4, 5, and then plus 4 of officers. Well, obviously some of the officers are on the committees. So that, I feel like I was hoping to clarify, and I feel like I muddied exactly more than what I was saying. So apologies.
So it's not like 2 to 6 new members then versus 2 to 10.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it would be helpful to add in the numbers that Alex added there too. So executive would not be any one that's 0. You have 4 officers.
So it's 2 for, well, technically it's 1 more. Well, it's technically 2 more. So as an example, finance being the treasurer, Pete, as well as 1 other person. Grants being 2 of us, and then governance being at least 1 person, which is me. But obviously, ideally more than that. Does that make sense? Those are the minimum requirements.
Say governance and nominating again, please.
Just the vice chair / governance chair, which I don't know how we got away with that. I would blame being a new parent on that, because everything says minimum of 2 trustees, but that one, apologies all. I have some suggested provisions, including, I'll just say it now too, untying the governance chair and vice chair roles.
So right now, does it read vice chair only?
Yes.
Okay.
So hopefully I am supporting you all in continuous learning, rereading through all the responsibilities. It may have the lowest threshold for trustees, but it has the most detail on its expectations.
Okay.
You might just want to throw in there a minimum of like treasurer and 1 trustee. And that would be true for the others as well, if you want to write it in or not.
I'll give you some leeway there, Alex. Okay. Okay.
All right. So let's plan to revisit this at our next meeting too. So we're kind of keeping a regular eye on it, since it's kind of a newer document and what we need to add and enhance. Why don't we plan to move to our next agenda item then, which connects to this, and that is board recruitment.
Julie, I can give the update on this. The update is that I failed to provide Julie with better dates to schedule such a meeting, but that we are actively working on that, and I hope to provide a better update soon. We did, however, review each of the candidate questionnaires, of which we have 3, and Julie and I alluded to the 3 different profiles. Well, my computer's. the three different profiles, the three different candidates. And so if they're listening right now, look for an email from me in the near future.
Great.
That's my very quick update, and I'm open for questions.
All right, so we'll plan to revisit this at our next meeting then.
We hope to have recommendations by the next meeting.
Great. Any other questions of Alex? All right, let's move to our new business agenda. And oh, I'm sorry, before we do that, the three candidates that you are talking about right now, each of them has some of the pieces we were looking for in our board plan, correct?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
Well,
at minimum,
two of the three.
Yes,
right?
2 of the 3. I would say that we'll still have a conversation with all 3 just to clarify and help them understand what we're back to what we were just working on as far as timeline goes. I don't want to not reach out to someone that's reached out to us because they've obviously shown interest and provided some information about themselves and what they're looking to do, because there could also be, back to that board committee component, opportunities related to our committees, more opportunities related to committees as opposed to just board service.
Okay, great.
And I would say future state, ideally, you have individuals serve on committees before serving as a board trustee. We're obviously not at that state yet.
Okay, good point. All right, great. Why don't we move then to our next agenda item, item number 14, Royal Oak branded merchandise sales as being a potential fundraiser. I'm trying to remember how this, I think this has been in our, it's been in our parking lot for a while.
Yeah.
We had talked about some of the former ones that had been enacted, like the 48067 and things like that. Is this something that we want to make as a standard online ordering that we can work with a supplier so it's on demand, and then also consider having some available in select retailers that are high traffic and good community supporters, like a holiday market, things like that?
Would these be Royal Oak branded or Royal Oak Civic Foundation branded, or both?
I think Royal Oak branded.
Yeah.
And does the city do this already? Do they sell T-shirts and things like that, or no?
I'm not sure.
Not usually, right?
The library, I think, used to have some T-shirts, but no, the city has not really put together a coordinated, really full court press kind of thing. We would do it because then we would obviously get the profits from it.
Yeah, and Mayor Fournier brought this up again at the strategic meeting in January, that using Royal Oak branded merchandise may be a good fundraiser for us.
I like that.
Yeah, and I think those T-shirts that were out maybe 10 years ago with the zip codes, that could be a fun, retro T-shirt thing to get us started.
Yeah, this just popped in my head. What if we, sold them at like Arts, Beats, and Eats or something?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Would people, would they buy them? Or I'm just throwing out an idea. It just popped in my head.
That's a great idea.
I don't know if we could get a free table.
Well, I was just going to say, I don't know what the conversation related to Arts, Beats, and Eats is, but they do support nonprofits. And I'm wondering if.
Yeah, all the police officers wearing them. And
yeah, I'd be happy to have a conversation with Jonathan Witz, and I'm sure he'd be more than happy to provide us an opportunity. He's a good guy, so.
Great. So I also wonder, would it be too much branding if we tried to get our small Royal Oak Civic Foundation logo maybe on a sleeve? So it's not only proceeds come to us, but we get a little bit of advertising also? Or does that muddy the 48073?
I was actually thinking. Oh,
yeah,
go ahead.
Sorry, we don't have to answer that right now, but it's just something that comes up because in an effort, one of our things on the goal is to, continue getting our name out there.
I was thinking co-branding. I don't the idea. You've lost your connection. You're untethered. So yeah, I was going to suggest that from perspective of, even if it's like find out how to serve, go to the rocf.org, you know, like that kind of thing. But Shar, what were you?
I just feel like this is an enormously labor-intensive effort. I mean, the cost benefit analysis on this I think would tell us that this is not the best use of Julie's time. If we had someone to coordinate it for us, a volunteer, that would be one thing, but I just don't see the benefits of this. I love the idea of being able to buy a variety of Royal Oak merchandise, but I don't think it's a good choice.
The only thing I can think of is I might be able to help with this. There are companies where, I know OCC does this. I don't remember all the details, but there are companies where you can go online and you can buy the t-shirts, shirts, sweaters. They basically have your logo and they put it on almost anything. And you buy it and they ship it right to you, your home. I don't know how much, again, I think back to what Shar was saying, I don't know that there's much of a fundraiser there. It's great publicity for the city. It could be good publicity if it comes through our website. So maybe it's not a fundraiser as much as it's just sort of a goodwill, getting our name out there more than anything. But it's a thought.
Well, so that's what several agencies have done this using. The name of the company escapes me. But the profit margin on, t-shirts or whatever is, I don't know, whatever, $5. I mean, yeah, we could do that. And agencies are doing that pretty readily now. But is that the most profitable solution?
What if it was a benefit of donating, so that we have these t-shirts, or we do a campaign and it's a gift, a gift with a $500 donation or something.
A tote bag?
No, a t-shirt.
Well, about a tote bag of stuff, maybe a tote bag with a t-shirt.
That's my NPR joke for the day.
Oh.
Yeah.
And a calendar. We're gonna have a great calendar. I mean, I love the idea. I agree with Shar. I don't know that it's a fundraiser, but it could be a good awareness campaign, and if it could almost run itself, where it's literally a link to a company, to a catalog, where you can buy the items and they ship it directly to your home, where it's literally almost hands off to us, but yet you're bringing people to our website. It could be good publicity for us. Could be great publicity and what's the word I'm looking for? There's a lot of people that love Royal Oak and they would wear the t-shirt. And so I think there's some of that. I just don't know that it's a huge fundraiser. But it might be something. I'm saying it doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. I just don't know that we should do it as a fundraiser, I guess is what I'm saying.
How about if we come back to our next meeting, thinking through the cost analysis of this too? What is our return on an investment, and is this something we do now? Is this something we do later? Is this something we connect to? Is your gift with purchase? Is it something that's special event driven when groups can be in much larger scale together, i.e. the Dream Cruise, Arts, Beats and Eats, things like that? Is it something we have to pend for those types of things just because of COVID? And can we run the entire thing online too, using one of those current suppliers that you just give them the artwork and they do the activation for it as well? They're all good ideas, but maybe we ask the question of what's our uptick of revenue. We aren't necessarily in business for publicity. We have to focus every decision, I think, on what brings money in the door. So the PR piece should always be a benefit, but it can't lead our decision. It has to be that nice unintended benefit. And let's make a decision next time.
And I could, if you want, we could do a couple of things. I could talk to our, she's great. Her name's Maria. She is in charge of all of our bookstores. She's very creative. She would have a lot of expertise in this, as far as, I mean, ordering things with logos, how to price them. She's the one that actually sets us up with the OCC where you can, you know, order directly with these companies. She might have some insight on how we go about doing this, or whether or not we should really not want to venture down this road. I mean, she would be honest about it. If you'd like, I could talk to her first.
Sure.
And then if it made sense to bring her back, I'm more happy to bring her back at the next meeting.
Yeah, that'd be great. And
Okay.
I'd be curious. And then I have a supply resource that I could talk to at some point too, but I'd be curious your person's perspective first. And it's related to another project I was doing with another group that I might have some intel to add after that.
I can talk to her and just kind of pick her brain a little bit and see.
Yeah. If
I think there's something there, I'll contact Julie and we could always get her on the agenda. Or if her answer is, look, this is not a good idea.
Run.
Better answer.
That sounds good.
And I can always report back.
Great. Thank you, Peter.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so let's move to our last agenda item in our last 2 minutes and look at our agenda for our next meeting. We will continue the first section. We'll continue following the director's report as 8. It doesn't look like we would need a city attorney's report exactly, but if you do have topics to report back on, Mark, we can work with Julie to put you on the agenda. Big picture visioning, we're going to invite the Nature Society, I think was next. Is that correct, Julie?
Yes.
Will we leave unfinished business, or do you want to move that to the parking lot for the accounting decision / staff paying for staff decision?
Maybe it should go to the parking lot. I'm just not sure how long it's going to take to get the answer.
Let's put it in the parking lot. And let's.
Well, what went into the parking lot? I was.
The Kitch Riemann status of accounting instead of decision.
Yep, got it. Thanks.
Let's leave the first 5 years timeline on for quick review. Let's leave board recruitment update. We'll move Royal Oak branded merchandise to unfinished business. And we had the new business thought of doing an annual giving campaign around the holidays. So let's put that in our new business section as the final topic, replacing 14. Any other thoughts?
Just going to share that I'm tentative for that meeting. I'll make sure that there's a report for it, though.
For clarity, our next meeting date is
June 9th.
Yep.
June 9th. Yep. Great. Can we put that on our agendas going forward too, just so it's, I don't know if it's helpful to always have that out there.
Sure.
Great. Anything else for today's meeting? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Do roll call, starting Shar.
Yes.
Alex.
Yes.
Peter.
Yes.
I'm a yes as well. So we went over by 1 minute.
Not bad.
Julie, as always, thank you for your assistance too. And
Thank
keep
you.
this going. Thanks everybody for your time today.
Yep,
Thanks,
thank
everybody.
you all for your time.
Bye, all.
See you next month.